Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Twisted Talks. I'm Josh.
I'm Tanya.
And this week it is Tanya's time to shine with her solo case.
Yes.
And I do not know what it is, so tell us.
So today I am going to be covering the case of the Slender Man stabbing.
Oh, I think I do know this one.
Okay. So I honestly don't even know how to describe today's case, so I'm just going to dive straight in.
Do we need a trigger?
So there is a trigger warning because this case does involve kids. It's a case about 12-year-old girls.
Okay.
So just with that in mind, if that's not something that you are comfortable with or something that you want to hear, that's fine. Off you go. We'll burn your ears off in the next one. So Payton Leutner was born in 2002 and was raised in Waukesha, Wisconsin by her parents Stacy and Joe. While Payton was in school, she befriended Morgan Geyser, and according to Payton's mother Stacy, Payton had seen that Morgan was fairly lonely and felt that she needed a friend, saying, quote, "She was sitting all by herself and I didn't think that anyone should have to sit by themselves." And Morgan herself has said that Payton was her only friend for a long time. The two girls loved spending time together and would often have sleepovers. And around the time that they got to 6th grade, at which point they would have been 12 years old, the girls had included Anissa Weier into their group. Anissa had just joined their class at school, and for Payton's birthday on May 30th, 2014, the three girls went to Skateland, which is a local roller skating rink in Waukesha, and Payton was said to be quite a good skater. They had a great time, and they went back to Payton's house for a sleepover where they had frozen yogurt. Now Morgan went to sleep early that night, and this will become relevant soon, which is why I've even mentioned it. The next morning, after their little sleepover, and after their frozen yogurt and movies and all of that, the three girls went for a walk in David's Park, which was nearby. They walked for a bit until Anissa suggested that the three of them play hide and seek. She told Payton to lie on the ground and cover herself with sticks and leaves to hide herself. Payton did this, and suddenly Anissa sat on top of her. At this point, Payton started struggling and yelling that she couldn't breathe, so Anissa got off of her and discussed something with Morgan briefly, before Morgan suddenly lunged at Payton and brutally stabbed her best friend 19 times in her legs, arms and abdomen, before they ran away, leaving Payton for dead as she screamed, "I hate you, I trusted you." Now, excuse me, the girls actually said to Payton as they were leaving her that they were going to get help. They did not do that.
But did they not just do that?
What, stop her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're saying they're going to get help.
Yeah. So let's just backtrack a tiny bit. So when Morgan became friends with Anissa, this is when she started to develop an obsession with Slender Man. And now for those of you who aren't aware, Slender Man is a fictional character. He's described as being very tall with extremely slender arms and legs. He also has between 4 and 8 black tentacles protruding from his back, depending on what depiction of him you're looking at. He wears a black suit, and it's said that he can stretch his limbs and his torso to frighten and trap his prey. Once his arms are outstretched, his victim will fall into a hypnotized trance and will helplessly walk towards him. His face is pale and has no features, although in some depictions it's covered in cloth or gauze. Think like the Nogitsune in Teen Wolf, when Styles was like Void Styles. And the Nogitsune had the fabric, the gauze all over his face. So, yeah, it's said that he murders children and he dwells in the woods. So Morgan and Anissa were convinced that Slender Man was going to kill their families, and they had also decided to become his proxies. So they were essentially becoming his servants, his henchmen. And they thought that the best way to protect their families, as well as prove their dedication to Slender Man and prove to skeptics that he was real, was to murder Payton.
Standards.
Bear in mind, these girls are 12. They're all 12 years old.
Yeah.
So they had spent months planning this.
Premeditated.
Yeah,
to the max.
they had spent...
At that age, what 12. The hell?
So, they had spent months planning this murder, and they used code words when they were talking about it. So they would use the word cracker when referring to a knife. So, like, they were going... Because they knew they were going to use a knife.
Very intellectual.
And they would use the term itch when talking about the actual murder. And then when talking about the whole thing, they would refer to it as their camping trip in a tribute to the Nicollet National Forest in Wisconsin, which is where they believed that Slender Man lived. And in fact, the reason that Morgan had gone to sleep early at the sleepover was because they had initially planned to kill Payton at 2 a.m. in her own home, in her own bed.
Okay.
So they were going to duct tape her mouth, stab her in the neck, and then they would pull her covers over her and run. But according to Morgan, they didn't do it because, quote, I wanted to give her one more day.
How nice of you. How considerate.
So the next morning, their new plan was to stab her in the bathroom at the park. And I did read that while they were in the bathroom at the park that they were at, Anissa tried to knock Payton out by slamming her head into a wall. But somehow they managed to pass it off as like, oh, it was a joke that went wrong.
Yeah, because it didn't knock her out.
Yeah. Because in their minds it was going to be easier to kill a victim who was unconscious.
Who needs enemies when you're friends like that?
Exactly. So they then decided to do it in the woods. And when they had been chatting amongst themselves before stabbing Payton, they had actually been passing the knife back and forth. So when Anissa sat down on top of Payton, she was expecting Morgan to start stabbing her straight away. And then when Payton started freaking out and was like, I can't breathe, get off me, she got up and they spoke and they were passing the knife back and forth. But I think they had their backs turned to Payton, so Payton couldn't see that they had a knife. So Morgan gave it to Anissa, who said that she was too squeamish and gave it back. To which Morgan said, quote, I'm not going until you tell me to. To which Anissa responded, quote, go ballistic, go crazy, now. And then to use the term that Morgan used during her confession, stabby, stab, stab. That's literally how she referred to it as she confessed.
Stabby, stab, stab.
Like, police asked her what happened and she said, I already told you, stabby, stab, stab.
Jesus.
As you do. Now, luckily for Payton, who had been left bleeding in the woods, she was able to crawl to somewhere more open, where a passing cyclist named Greg Steinberg just so happened to find her, and he immediately called 911. Emergency services responded and took Payton to the Pro Health Waukesha Memorial Hospital. Payton had soft
tissue damage?
Thank you. Soft tissue damage on her arms and her legs, and the 2 wounds in her abdomen had luckily not been fatal or caused irreparable damage.
Thank God.
Now, one of the stab wounds in her abdomen would actually have killed her if it had been literally the width of a hair closer to her heart. Like, just the width of a hair.
Is like the unluckiest girl.
Yeah. And the other stab wound to her abdomen had caused damage to her stomach and liver, which meant that she had to endure a 6-hour surgery. But she was able to tell police who had hurt her before she went into surgery. And she actually had to use a whiteboard to communicate because she wasn't actually able to breathe on her own. She had to be intubated.
Okay, so she couldn't talk.
So she couldn't talk because she had a big tube down her throat helping her breathe.
Just about had the energy to write it.
And apparently when she woke up from her surgery, the first thing that she asked was, did you catch them? Are they in custody or are they still out? Now, Morgan and Anissa had actually been arrested about 4 or 5 hours after Payton had been found because they were seen walking around near Interstate 94 covered in blood.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Like, they had gone and washed the blood off their hands, but not off their clothes. So they had spots of blood all over them.
Yeah.
And as well, one of them had a bag with a 5-inch blade inside. And as well, because their plan was to kill Morgan, and then they were planning on walking... So they had been on a quest at the time of their arrest.
They thought they were playing a game.
They were planning on walking hundreds of miles north to meet Slender Man in his forest.
Hence being on the interstate.
Yeah. And they packed like a couple of granola bars, their knife, bottles of water, and Anissa brought a picture of her family because she didn't want to forget what they looked like while she was living with Slender Man.
What in the name?
Mm-hmm. Like, these girls genuinely believed that Slender Man was real, that he was coming for them and he was going to be their master. So, once Morgan and Anissa were in custody, Morgan apparently asked, quote, is she dead? I was just wondering. About her best friend.
Well.
Her supposed best friend. I really need to get my glasses fixed. This is really annoying me. So,
what happened to him?
They just got squished. police began questioning the girls, and apparently they, quote, expressed mixed regret with cold-blooded intent. And Anissa said, quote, the bad part of me wanted her to die, the good part of me wanted her to live. In Morgan's interview, she was asked about the reasoning behind the stabbing, and she responded with, it was necessary. And when detectives prodded her on what exactly had seemed necessary, she said, quote, I might as well just say it, we were trying to kill her. Morgan also...
But that doesn't tell us why it was necessary.
Like, Morgan...
That's apparent.
Like, one of the first things she said to police was, I was forced to stab my best friend. Bitch, nobody forced you. You came up with this plan. You were the mastermind.
Yeah.
So Morgan also told police that she was sorry, but added that it was weird she didn't feel remorse. So, like, one of the things that she said was, I thought I'd feel worse about it. I thought I'd feel guilty or remorseful or whatever word she used. But she just didn't.
Child's clearly a literal psychopath. Like, as in diagnosis-wise, to not even feel remorse.
So Morgan said to police, quote, we led her there and tricked her. People who trust you become very gullible, and it was sort of sad. Bear in mind, these are 12-year-olds. When we were 12, when we were 12, we were playing spies. I'm just going to give you... Skipping ahead again. So these girls basically said, like, yeah, sorry we stabbed her, but it had to be done so we could go to Slender Mansion.
Like, you know, sorry about it, but...
We really wanted to live with Slender Man in his mansion in the woods, in the Nicollet National Forest. Now, as soon as this case hit the media, people were blasting parents, and especially Anissa and Morgan's parents, saying that parents needed to be more careful with the media their children consumed, which, like, yeah, it's a valid point. But also, these are 12-year-old girls in the age of the iPhone.
Yeah, like, I played Slenderman and saw stuff to do with Slenderman. Me and lads
like, I used to read the creepypasta stories, yeah.
And same, and never in my life did
I didn't think
any of us cross.
I don't think he was real.
Yeah, I didn't think he was real. Didn't want to go live with him. Didn't want to kill my close friends.
Yeah, I would have been very concerned if you had wanted to kill me.
So you remember that one time? It just didn't work.
They're 12 years old. iPhones are a thing at this point because it's 2014. Like, how the fuck are the parents meant to monitor their kids' media every second of the day?
Yeah.
Now, Payton stayed in the hospital for 7 days and she returned to school in September of 2014. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of background info on Morgan before we get into the trial and things. I will say when researching this case, I couldn't find much on Anissa, and I think that's because while Anissa was the one who initially believed that Slender Man was real and Morgan kind of fell into that, Morgan was the one who apparently masterminded this whole plan of killing Payton.
Yeah.
So I think that's why there's more information on Morgan.
Yeah.
So Morgan Geyser was born on May 16th, 2002, and apparently Morgan showed a lack of empathy from a young age. I had to include this. She watched Bambi as a child, and apparently her parents were quite surprised when she wasn't upset at the scene where Bambi's mama died.
Yeah, that hurt me. I have trauma from that.
Instead, she looked at the screen and said, quote, run, Bambi, run. Get out of there. Save yourself.
Save yourself. Fuck your mother. Get out of there.
I was howling at that when I read it in my research. So her parents also said...
The mother sitting there like...
What do you mean run and save yourself, honey? I mean run and save yourself, bitch. Did you not hear me?
It's like... Okay,
did I stutter?
Mother was like, I hope nothing ever happens to me because I can't rely on this fucking cunt.
We should probably have another one that can actually save us from a fire.
Yeah.
So her parents also said...
Like most kids, if something happens, like, around their parents will probably ring 911 for an ambulance. Yeah. This one's ringing the undertakers.
Yeah, she's like, here, can you come get my mum? She's after dropping dead in the sitting room.
Yeah, like what? Like, she's not actually dead yet, but like, you know, I'm just getting organised.
She's on her way out, like, I'm just trying to get ahead of things.
Fucking hell, like.
So Morgan's parents also said that she was quiet and creative and that this is what had drawn Payton to her in 4th grade when they became friends. They had instantly hit it off, and Payton described her in an interview to 2020 as funny, saying she always had a lot of jokes to tell, and recalling that Morgan was great at drawing with a vivid imagination that always kept things fun. Payton also recalled how things had started going downhill in the 6th grade when Anissa had come on the scene. This is where the Slender Man obsession had come into play, and Morgan and Anissa both loved Slender Man, but Payton thought it was creepy and she didn't like it. Nor did she like Anissa Weier very much. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big fan of Anissa. She said, quote, I just hung out with her because I knew that Morgan really loved her as a friend, but she was always cruel to me. I feel like she was jealous that Morgan was friends with me and her. which is quite common when you're like 12.
Yeah.
It doesn't usually end in murder.
No.
It might end in like a fucking scrap and some words exchanged, but it doesn't usually end in murder.
And then the next day you're fine again.
So Payton had considered cutting ties with Morgan, but stuck around because she thought everyone deserved a friend. So Payton, just by all accounts, seems to be a really empathetic,
good child,
good person. In Morgan's bedroom and her school locker, police had found drawings of Slender Man, some with phrases like "I want to die" and "help me escape my mind" written on them, as well as mutilated dolls and internet searches on her computer like "how to get away with murder" and "what kind of insane am I?"
Well, there's some self-awareness there, I guess.
What kind of insane am I? What crazy do I have? We'll find out later.
I'm so looking that up after this.
What kind of insane am I?
Just out of curiosity to see what I'll get.
Same.
Just
we might
for
update
the shits and
you.
giggles.
We might update you. We'll see. So while Morgan was in police custody,
it's giving. Sorry to interrupt again, but it's giving Quotev vibes.
It is giving Quotev vibes. I wonder if my Quotev account is still there.
I'm gonna Google right now.
I haven't checked on that thing in fucking years.
It's just when I think of quizzes, I think of that one as well, because I remember that one being like, quizzes. You know, having the stories like Wattpad, but being more inclusive in terms of
it would be like
quizzes
interactive, yeah. Is Quotev still even a thing?
Yeah.
Oh my god, is it?
What monster lies within you?
I haven't been on Quotev since I was like, I want to say 12, 13.
I went on not long back, just
really?
out of curiosity again. But I can't remember what your name on it was.
I can't remember what my name on it was either. It was either something in Irish, or it was like Tanya R97 or something.
I'm like trying to think of, can I even remember my own account?
Hang on now. Sorry guys, we're getting sidetracked, but this is important.
Wait, what if I say trouble logging in? I'm surely you had the same email then, did I?
It's probably your old Yahoo email address. The one you
would want to be, because it's well gone.
My internet's not good enough here.
I'm checking if it sent me the email to reset. But I could have made a new account as well. But yeah, guys, if you want to find really weird quizzes and stuff, Quotev.
Quotev.com. Is it .com?
Yeah.
Okay. So jumping back into the case. While Morgan was in police custody, correctional officers often saw her talking to herself. She would also pretend to be a cat and kept ants as pets.
Okay.
And she would see unicorns as well as have continuous conversations with Slender Man and other fictional characters.
Okay, she sounds seriously mentally
Other
ill.
fictional characters like Severus Snape.
Okay, no,
Snape.
This child is clearly not well.
Severus Snape.
Dumbledore!
Yeah, like she is severely mentally ill.
Unhinged.
So Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weier were both charged as adults for attempted first-degree intentional homicide and were taken to the West Bend Juvenile Facility even. Now, because they were being charged as adults instead of minors, they were facing up to 65 years each in prison.
Ooh.
And their bail was set at $500,000, which neither of the families could afford, so they remained in the facility until their trial. The girls were both visited every week by their mothers, and Morgan's mother, Angie Geyser, said that in the beginning Morgan was like a caged animal and that her hair was wild. Now, kind of getting into the mental health aspect.
Yeah.
Morgan underwent a mental health examination before her trial and was diagnosed with early onset schizophrenia, which is a condition that her father also had, or has. So obviously that would have kind of explained how she got so wrapped up in the Slender Man situation and why she thought he was real, because he was part of her hallucinations for her untreated and undiagnosed schizophrenia at the time.
Yeah.
I'm nearly finished.
Oh well.
Very short one this week, lads. Now, Morgan began her treatment and is said to have made significant progress during the 3-year lead up to the trial. The trial date was set for 2017 and the factor of Morgan's diagnosis had to be taken into account. So basically her charges got kind of reduced a little bit, and she ended up pleading guilty to a charge of second-degree attempted homicide. And many of her doctors testified at the trial saying that while she no longer presented serious psychotic symptoms, she was still hearing voices and having auditory hallucinations at the time of the trial. In 2017, Morgan Geyser was found not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect, but she was still given a sentence of 40 years in the Winnebago Mental Health Institute near Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Oshkosh.
That's a name.
Oshkosh. The judge spoke to the New York Times on the matter, saying, quote, "It's a long time, but this is an issue of community protection," end quote. Now, Anissa Weier also pled guilty to a lesser charge of second-degree murder, and the jury also found her not guilty by reason of mental disorder or defect. It's believed that Morgan and Anissa suffered from a shared delusion, also known as folie à deux. Folie à deux, my apologies. Oops. Where am I? So the Merriam-Webster definition of folie à deux is as follows. Quote, "The presence of the same or similar delusional ideas in two persons closely associated with one another." Look at my typos.
Oh, I'm always spotting typos.
Declusion
when
in persons closely. So Anissa was sentenced to 25 years. Oh, sorry. So basically, the whole thing with folie à deux is that two people can share the same delusion. And when two people share the same delusion, it almost validates it for the other person.
Yeah.
So because Anissa and Morgan both believed so strongly that Slender Man was real, it validated it for both of them.
Yeah.
And made it that much stronger. And then especially with Morgan having undiagnosed schizophrenia, it was just a bad mix, a very bad mix. And unfortunately, Payton was the one that suffered for it. So Anissa Weier was sentenced to 25 years in a mental health institution, and as of 2021, she has been released on good behaviour and is required to live with her father. Payton's family expressed disappointment over Anissa's release, but say that they are relieved that she is required to receive the relevant psychiatric treatment, as well as being bound to GPS monitoring and being completely banned from any form of contact with Payton until at least 2039. So, like, she can't be anywhere near her, anywhere around her.
Yeah, like restraining order vibes.
Yeah, and then her father is kind of responsible for her. So I suppose if anything goes wrong while she's out, she gets sent straight back.
Yeah.
It would be like a violation of her
probation almost.
Yeah. So just to wrap up the case, I'm going to give you a little bit of info on Payton and how she's now. I won't be going too in-depth out of respect for her, because she's
trying to live her life.
She's a survivor. She's trying to live her life, and I think the least that she deserves is her privacy, and I think that's something we can all agree on. So, all right then.
No, I do agree. I just wanted to see a reaction. If I was just like, no,
absolutely not. So in 2019, Payton spoke publicly for the first time since her attack. Now, her parents...
When did you say?
2019.
Okay, that's not
so
that long ago.
Her parents had given an interview at one stage, and Payton was present but didn't speak.
Yeah.
So this was like the first time that she
herself
spoke and told her side and all of that. Payton gave an interview to ABC, and she was 17 years old at the time, and she told ABC that she was ready to reclaim her story, saying, quote, "I feel like it's time for people to see my side rather than everyone else's."
Fair.
She went on to tell her story in her own words, and I highly encourage you to watch the interview if you want to learn more about the case and about Payton's side of things. I think I watched it on YouTube.
It is probably on YouTube,
don't
to be
quote
fair.
me on that. So, excuse me. Excuse me. Payton has said that she has done her best to resume a normal life since the attack, but understandably she finds trusting others and especially new friends difficult.
Yeah, well, a lot less has happened in my life to make me not trust new people, so I can only imagine the difficulties after that, trying to
you would be left
trust
with severe
new
trust
friends
issues,
and partners, relationships, anything.
But despite this, she has been able to make some good friends. Now, she did say in the interview that at first she found she was kind of keeping them at arm's length because there was always that undercurrent of feeling like you can't trust anyone, especially when it was your best friend that stabbed you. So she also touched on how she feels nothing but empathy for Morgan's mother, saying she believes it's wrong for people to speak ill of her and trash her because it's not her fault. Payton believes that what happened to her was caused by Morgan's schizophrenia, not how she was raised. Payton was asked by the interviewer what she would say to Morgan if she ever saw her again, and she responded with, quote, "I would probably initially thank her. I would say, just because of what she did, I have the life now. I really, really like it, and I have a plan. I didn't have a plan when I was 12, and now I do because of everything I went through. I wouldn't think that someone who went through what I did would ever say that, but it's truly how I feel. Without the whole situation, I wouldn't be who I am." End quote. At the time of the interview, Payton said she was planning to attend college in the fall/autumn of 2020, and that she would like to pursue a career in the medical field, which she believes is inspired by what happened to her.
Yeah.
And I hope COVID didn't fuck that up too much for her.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the story of the Slender Man stabbing and of...
It is wild, like.
Yeah. 12 years old.
But, it makes sense with
The
schizophrenia.
Yeah, and I just think that they just were kind of bouncing off each other. Like, I do suspect that there was something there with Anissa.
And
as
what
well.
was the name of the quiz that Johan looked up again?
How insane am I? Or what kind of insane am I? I don't know if it was a quiz.
I'm looking that up right now.
I don't know if it was a quiz.
But they were just looking it up in general.
Or if it was just her, like, knowing that there was something wrong with her and trying to figure out what it was.
I'm going to look that up now.
Which is quite sad when you think about it. Like, she was 12 and she knew there was something wrong, but she didn't know enough to know that murder was wrong. Well, she knew it was wrong. She knew what she was doing was wrong, but she still thought it was the best thing to do.
I'm doing a quiz right now.
I am very impressed by Payton's maturity and the fact that she was able to get past all of this and resume a normal life and kind of look back on it in almost a positive light, I suppose.
Yeah.
He's too stuck into the quiz.
Yeah. But I do agree.
But yeah, that's the Slender Man case, guys. We'll just wait for Josh to find out what kind of insane he is. And then I'll find out what kind of insane I am. What quiz is it?
I just googled it and clicked the first one that came up. I think it's an actual proper kind of vibe one.
Okay, what kind of insane am I? Is it this one?
Yeah.
How mentally insane are you? By proprofs.com. I hate how bad my reception is here. Okay, you don't answer until I get my answers.
Hurry on, girl.
I'm trying. The internet's not working with me, Joshua.
I'm faster than the internet, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Apparently 189,023 people have done this. Come on. Is your internet better here?
Yeah.
Can I just do it on your phone? When you can say your one. Go on.
You got manic depression.
Oh, spicy.
It's included in the diagnosis, but it's not solely alone.
Okay.
No, I meant in real life, not from the quiz.
Yeah. Because I'm still here. I'm still waiting for it to open the first question.
Create your own quiz. So.
What kind of mentally ill are you? Oh, wait, here we go.
That's something. Calling me out like that. Just some, like, look at the line of silence on the recording.
Yeah, sorry guys.
But,
yes, I do.
Yes, so
I'm
Tanya's
on question
answering
6.
questions now. But yeah. In the meantime, while we're waiting for Tanya's results, feel free to give us 5 stars. Feel free to message us suggestions for our cases.
Or Slender Man's going to be at the end of your bed tonight and he's going to take you to Slender Mansion. And it's not like Playboy Mansion, it's not fun.
Oh, Playboy Mansion wasn't fun either.
Do you ever like yourself? And the options are, I'm okay, I love myself, I hate myself, sometimes I love myself, sometimes I hate myself.
I know what you went for. 'Cause same.
I'm on the last question. I got manic depression.
Well, you know.
Twinsies.
Same diagnosis in real life. Might as well get the same one from a quiz.
Why not, like? Honestly.
So
yeah, that's the Slender Man case. Sorry it was so short. Josh was not giving much input.
There wasn't much input to give.
Yeah, true. True. But yeah, so there you go. Stay away from Slender Man, guys, and if you don't give us 5 stars, he's going to invade your house with his long, spindly arms and legs. And his tentacles.
Some people might be into that.
That's between them and Slender Man.
Tentacle porn.
And on that note...
Tanya's off to watch some internet.
Is she? Tanya's off to fucking fill up a jerry can with petrol.
That was a joke about how you're going to go watch tentacle porn.
Yeah, but I'm going to fill up a jerry can with petrol.
You need to get fueled up for your tentacles.
I also need to get coal. And I need to get snacks. And I need to get tobacco for Justin.
So, busy bee.
Busy bee.
Anyway, yes, okay. The end of this has just been so random and so dragged.
Bye. Thank you for listening. We will see you next week. This is Slender Man talking. Give 5 stars, or I'm coming to your house and I'm going to steal all your pots and pans.
Pots and pans. Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Ciao, guys.
Bye.
Au revoir.